Gino he writes a blog known as indestructible-ideas.com. I would highly recommend it, you checking that out as well. He writes on the social condition as it exists today and the possibilities that we have for our future. He's currently working on his master's degree at USC for a degree in social work, and is also working with YMCA Kinship Support Services, where he finds resources for families who adopt children. And he wants me to pass on to you, if you are looking for those kinds of services, please feel free to speak with him after tonight's event. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Gino Montesi up here.
Thank you everyone for coming. I'm gonna introduce the Zeitgeist movement. It's a very complicated movement in a sense of all the information that you can learn from it. So because I only have a certain amount of minutes up here, I can't really extrapolate on the tenets of the movement. So I'm just gonna try to do a brief introduction on it and suggest that you look at the orientation guide that divulges into it further. So societal change can occur in many ways, whether through ballot initiatives, political campaigns, or through grassroots activism. I believe the latter has the ability to evoke the healthiest change within our society because it creates an out-of-the-box thinking and also emerges beyond the current power structure. Bucky famously said, "You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And I really believe the Zeitgeist movement does this. We have a system value disorder, and in order to produce substantial change, we need a value system change. For example, we can imprison terrorists, we can kill them, but the system that breeds this type of thinking will still exist. And until that value system is examined, terrorists will continue to thrive. The Zeitgeist movement is important because unlike other organizations and establishments, it focuses on the whole life perspective. The root causes, not the symptoms. We argue that the current social system is the inherent cause of the social problems we have today. The resulting effect on human behavior creates corruption, pollution, wars, waste, and exploitation, which are all symptoms of the root cause. Roughly 1 billion people are starving, and it's not due to the lack of food resources, since we actually have enough food right now to feed everyone on the planet. Governmental subsidies and more donations to food programs will not end starvation. It is not a political or a financial issue, but rather it's a technical issue. This is a famous photo taken that highlights poverty. And the vulture's just ready to feast on dead human carcass. It's quite disgusting that we have this in our society today when we have so much food to give to people. It has been argued that many of the problems we face today is due to human nature. However, this is simply not the case. We are byproducts of our environment, and that begins the second we have an environment, which is when we're in our mother's womb. For example, it is found that people who experienced famine as fetuses in the Dutch winter hunger during World War II endured several metabolic problems such as high blood pressure and diabetes in later adult life due to the programming experienced in utero. One of the largest studies ever done on the topic was at Kaiser Permanente here in San Diego called the ACE study, which had about 17,000 participants, which was one of the largest studies ever done. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are described as emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, emotional or physical neglect, and being raised in an environment where someone was using drugs, alcohol, or where there was someone who was mentally ill, suicidal, or imprisoned. The study found that the main contributors to sickness, death, and inadequate quality of life in the United States are linked to adverse childhood experiences. The same could be applied to violence. Violence does not have to be universal. It has been shown that countries that offer universal and free healthcare, generous public housing, better unemployment policies, and have an overall better socioeconomic system are the countries that have the least amount of violence. There are even some societies that have virtually no violence, as you can see here on the slide. I am not suggesting that we live like these groups. I am just highlighting the fact that violence is not universal and does not have to be a certainty in our society. If we alter our social, cultural, and economic conditions, we can dramatically reduce and eliminate violence from the face of this earth. The Zeitgeist movement proposes a transition out of our current monetary system into an economic model based on a resource-based economy, which is a holistic socio-economic system in which all goods and services are available without the use of money, credits, barter, or any other systems of debt or servitude. All resources become the common heritage of the inhabitants and not just a select few. In a resource-based economy, you would have no money or market system. The monetary system is based on infinite growth and scarcity, which disregards the finite resources that we have on our planet today. And they do this for the sake of profit. Market system does not wisely manage the Earth's resources, and with globalization, products are imported and exported across the world while polluting the environment. In addition, the production technique called planned obsolescence is in which products are created to break down so repeated purchases can continue. This is wasteful and insidious. An example of this really began in the 1930s with the Phobius Light Bulb Corporation. They had light bulbs that could have lasted up to 25,000 hours, but instead they were forced to have light bulbs that lasted 1,000 hours so they could keep selling them. And this really began then, and this applies to your cell phones and to your laptops. Every year we have to buy a different one now. They're meant to break down. They're planned to break down. It's called planned obsolescence. In a resource-based economy, the highest technological competence will be sought while taking into consideration abundance, efficiency, and sustainability. Being a San Diego resident, I often hear that illegal immigrants are going to take your job, or that they've already taken your job. But really, these people should not be worried about that. In fact, they should be worried about machines taking your jobs, because that's exactly what's happening right now with technological unemployment. In 1860, 60% of America worked in agriculture. By 1993, only 3% worked in agriculture. And this was due because of automation. If you look at Jack in the Box or Fresh and Easy or any other supermarket, you start to see self-checkouts, and you don't really need to talk to anyone anymore at that point. And it's going to continue. The elevator man was a job, and that's taken away as well. In addition, right now we have 3D printing technology, which can build a house in 20 hours without the need of construction workers. This trend is continuing at a rapid pace, leaving many without methods of employment. However, in a resource-based economy, anything related to money is irrelevant. Therefore, Cybernation would free human beings from the toils of monotonous labor and from the perils of unemployment. Resource distribution in a resource-based economy would be accomplished from a full systems approach, which is the management of the Earth's resources, in which production and distribution is done efficiently with conservation and sustainability taken into consideration foremost. First, we would survey the Earth's resources, in which each material would be analyzed bottom up, keeping in mind many variables such as renewability and negative environmental impacts that could occur from extraction of these resources. Current computer intelligence is able to technically apply such a method. In a resource-based economy, we would have access over property. To meet human needs, access is needed, not ownership. People use things, they do not own them. Currently, ownership is used as a form of controlled restriction, both physically and ideologically. In a resource-based economy, the idea of ownership would transition into everyone having access to these resources. Instead of owning a camera per se, we would have access centers where a person could pick up a camera, use it, and return it. It's very similar to a library system, but with everything that you need. Most importantly, with this, you wouldn't see any property crime, because without money, people are not going to need to steal it and sell it for profit, because there is none. So when everyone has unrestricted access to these such products, you don't see this. We would also have localized city and production systems. In our globalized world today, energy and resources are wasted in transportation of products from all corners of the earth. Production would be localized as scientifically as possible in a resource-based economy. For example, as you see here, it's vertical farming, which is environmentally conscious, has high yields, and could be built in highly urban cities. These homes could be highly, and this is actually a geodesic dome. These homes could be highly sufficient and where power is generated within the home using photovoltaic technology that absorbs sunlight. So how would we govern? Do we need politics? Do we need a different political party? We wouldn't deal with that at all. Actually, the way to govern would be using science, specifically the scientific method. Decisions in a resource-based economy would occur with the use of the scientific method, where testing and replication are needed in order to validate findings. With this, the scientific method would be applied to social concerns, not to profit. It is important to understand that there is not one single solution to the problems the world faces, but instead, using natural law reasoning, appropriate solutions can be determined for each situation. We need to move away from the political structure and realize that the individual self is the center for political choice. We need to move away from the left and right political system by shaping society bottom up. Disengaging from state-controlled politics and moving towards self-organization, political participation through local communities, and social movements is now affecting more change than the former governmental political systems. The Zeitgeist movement certainly fits in this. It is important to take the whole life perspective into consideration and move away from the Band-Aid culture we live in, to remove the root of the problem so symptoms don't manifest, so the entire world becomes a healthier, more vibrant organism. Thank you.